Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, another podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips.
Welcome everybody to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and with Corey.
Hello, everybody.
And we're broadcasting live on 101.7 FM across the Fraser Valley from the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation. And if you're new to Unlocking Your Truth, I should explain that we are a talk show and we focus on metaphysics and spirituality. Every week we have a different topic, and this week is no exception. And the topics are always under the umbrella of metaphysics, spirituality, being psychic, intuition, energy healing, the paranormal, and all these wonderful topics.
No pizza, right?
And today's topic has been requested by Corey.
Has it?
Yeah, and what's the topic that you wanted us to do, Corey?
Well, I think one of the things we haven't spoken about in a long time is love, and different types of love and people that are hurting because of it and like not hurting because of it and all that wonderful stuff. It's we're coming up to interesting times of the year, and the world is changing on a daily basis, and love is changing.
So you said something interesting there. You said you thought it was a relevant time of year to talk about love.
Yes.
And you said people hurting because of love.
Yes.
Now, that's a kind of oxymoron, isn't it? Because to me, love is the highest vibration in existence.
It is.
And so I would say that we either hurt because we're under the illusion that we don't have love, or the reason we're hurting isn't because of love. It's because of something that wasn't love that one hoped would be love.
Or the lack of it, not having it in your life in any way, shape, or form. You can still, it's still love, and the lack of love still means that love is the cause.
What's your definition of love?
I'm asking the questions. You're answering them.
Well,
But Dr. Phillips, what's the definition of love in your mind?
Well, the definition of love, for me, love is, and I'll use the word God, love is the ultimate vibration of consciousness. Love is the source that we are all from. Love is the highest vibration. Love is who we are. And so any pain that we experience in this life is because we are separate from the truth, the true nature of our existence, the true nature of the core of our being, which is love. So love is the highest vibration, and in the vibration of love there is no pain and there is no fear, because it's the highest vibration. And it is the vibration that it's a vibration that basically heals all ills. And so all of the great spiritual masters that were great healers, like Jesus, for example, were operating out of a state of love.
Good point.
So, I think that there's a spiritual definition of love, And then there's a human concept of love. And we get a lot of questions on the show about love, which is often coming from the human concept of love. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have a clear perception of love. I think it's very common for people to confuse love with sex and with emotions, other emotions. It's common for people to confuse the state of oneness that is accessed through the vibration of love and the experience of love with merging. And so, you know, in the vibration of love, there is acceptance. Whereas in the human misaligned concept of love, there's often judgment and expectation and disappointment as a result of the judgment and expectation. And so often when people are going through turmoil around the subject of love, it's because they had an expectation of somebody that somebody didn't meet, or because they had a judgment of somebody, which means that they actually, even if they believe that they were completely in loving acceptance of that person, they weren't if they were judging them.
Remember a movie in the 70s or 80s, I can't remember when it was. I can't even remember the movie now, the name of the movie, but the definition of love in that movie was love means never having to say you're sorry, which I find interesting on that. I think for me, the definition of love has changed over the years, and I love the metaphysical or the spiritual the spiritual concept of love. Love is basically any energy that's opposite of fear and any fear energy. Because, I mean, there are only two emotions, there are only two energies, then that's fear and love. So what do you think about that?
Well, so you said love means never having to say you're sorry. In the energy of love, in the vibration of love, there is not such a thing as forgiveness or sorry.
Exactly.
Because in the energy of love, there is acceptance of all.
That's as Hollywood sees it, right?
You know, in the oneness. And so I would agree that in the vibration of love, you don't have to say you're sorry. It doesn't even come up, because there's not even such a thing as forgiveness, actually. If there truly is unconditional love, acceptance is an immediate, it is something that is a part of that. And then the second thing that you mentioned there was fear. And so let's talk about that, because fear is, everything on this planet is based on a dichotomy, because it's a planet of duality where the oneness is split into opposites, whether we call the opposites yin and yang, whether we call them male or female, negative, positive, everything here has an opposite. And so we might say that the opposite of love is fear. We might say that love is an expansion that includes and encompasses all things, and that fear is the opposite of a contraction that excludes everything. So in the vibration of fear, there is no movement. There is acceptance of nothing. That there is no flow. There is complete resistance. And whereas in the vibration of love, there is flow. There is movement. There is change. In the vibration of fear, there is no communication. Not communicating is the opposite of love. Communicating is love. So when there's communication, there's love. When there's no communication, that's not love. So yeah, we've got these two opposites that we can experience: the expansion and all-encompassing nature of love, and the contraction and all-excluding nature of fear. And if we talk about being on a spiritual path, then that isn't a path of expansion. That is a path of communication. That is a path of healing. And that is a path where if you're in fear, you're not moving along the path. So anytime we're in fear, we need to look at ourselves and bring ourselves into a consciousness where we can release the fear. And we have that. And another question we had this week was about raising the vibration. And so this topic of love is relevant to that, because the highest healing vibration that you could possibly be in is the vibration of love. And anything else, you can, so if you're in a state of fear, that's a really low vibration. If you're in a state of anger, well, there's movement in anger. It's a higher vibration than fear, but it's still very far away from love. As is sadness, as is, depression, as is grief. And so, one can think of all of the emotions that we have as a vibrational scale that's on the journey between the lowest vibration of fear and the highest vibration of love.
A lot of people, if you ask them what's the opposite of love, the first thing that comes to their mind is hate.
Yeah, and hate certainly is.
It is an opposite, but I don't think it's the opposite of love, in essence.
Well, some people will say hate, and some people will say anger.
I think apathy is.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because, if you think about, apathy, there's not much energy to do anything. It's kind of inertia, isn't it? And I would say anger, there's movement in anger. In anger, we have motion. In anger, energy is moving. In hate, energy is moving, quite often in an unpleasant, disrespectful way, but it's moving. True.
Yeah, that question that you had was from someone. She says, "Hi, Dr. Lesley. When a psychic is not of the light or low vibrational, yucky energy that makes you physically sick, how do you clear yourself quickly and effectively so it does not return?"
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat that to make sure I got it. So when a psychic is not of the light, and receiving a reading from them leaves you feeling yucky, how do you clear that energy instantly? Gosh, well, I certainly wouldn't be advocating going to see anyone that makes you feel that way. But because someone who's a good psychic would be someone who has a level of spiritual mastery and is conscious of their energy and in control of their energy, and certainly not using their energy in any disrespectful way. And if somebody's energy is in your space, then that's disrespectful.
True.
But if it happens, then there are, different things that you can do. But one of the things that I would say that would help you immediately is if you are able to ground. And I've talked about grounding a lot on the show before. Basically what grounding is it is creating a flow of energy from your first chakra near the base of the spine that goes all the way to the center of the earth. And so you can almost imagine your energy field like a big bathtub full of energy. And you can imagine your grounding cord like the plug in the bathtub, and you pull the plug out and you drain the foreign energy out like the water draining down the plug hole. So that's one very fast technique. Now there are others, and in my psychic development courses, such as my Unlock Your Intuition course, you learn a lot of different techniques that you can use to stay in charge of your energy and to be aware of when that's happening, because sometimes that happens and we don't even know. I had a client this morning who had asked me to move someone's energy out of her space, someone that she'd been friends with for a really long time. And eventually it had dawned on her, hang on a minute. Slowly over time, this energy's been seeping in and I didn't realize. And so sometimes, we meet with somebody and we go away and we go, oh, I feel really yucky, and we notice it immediately. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's just something that slowly makes its way in. And that's why having a practice of meditation and a practice, a way of being able to scan your own energy, which you basically can learn to do through your intuition, through your psychic abilities, is really beneficial. Because if you can see your energy, if you can feel your energy, if you know your energy, then you know it immediately, and you don't have to wait for 6 months before it suddenly dawns on you that this person's in my space and I should clear it out of the way.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's interesting when you think of love and that love vibration and some of the things that have been said about it. And, love makes the world go round. Love, love has launched. What is it? Oh, it just went right out of my head. But it's interesting when you think of what men and women both have done for the sake of that four-letter word. And I think a lot of people truly have a misconception, as you said earlier, of what love really is. And they're all looking for this. And I think to blame is, if I were to lay any blame, I think I would blame the media and things like Hollywood for putting this unusual or this unrealistic concept of love out there for everybody, that when you meet someone, everything is going to be wonderful and the world is going to be rosy and glorious and marvelous. And then what happens when they get into any when somebody finds a wonderful person to spend time with, and the first time they run into any circumstances that are like out of the pleasure sense, with a lower vibration, they have issues around it. And I think in today's society, people throw away relationships because they have a misguided concept of what love is. They would just say, oh no, this person's not the right person because of A, B, C, D, but we're all individuals. We're all different. We all need something different, and yet we all need the same. It's about having a sense of purpose other than a physical sense of purpose. I think that's what love is all about.
So you talked about the misconception. It looks like we've frozen on Facebook, by the way.
Have we frozen? Well, it's time for a break anyway.
Let's go for a break, and then I'll pick up on some of the things that you mentioned after the break. So listeners, you're listening to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and Corey. We'll be back after these messages. Well, welcome back, listeners, to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and with Corey. Tonight we're talking about love and giving it a human and a higher perspective. And before the break, Corey was talking about some of the things that happen in relationships between humans. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is, and I'll get at this misconception by saying, where is love? Most people have a belief that love is something I get from outside myself. And I seek a partner to give it to me. And when I find that partner, that soulmate, that twin flame, then they will give me the love that I am missing. And that's an absolute fallacy, because you are not missing love. It is a lie that you are missing love. It is a lie that you don't have love. Where the love is inside you. That's the place to look for the love. Look for the love within you. Find the love within you. Be the love that you are. And then your whole world, your whole reality will shift. Because as a beacon of love and light, then the universe will reflect love and light back at you. But if you are in a state of seeking love because you believe you don't have love, then you will attract others who believe they don't have love as well. Others, who are, and then what you will end up with is not what you really want. So love is not something outside of you. Love is not something that somebody else comes along and gives to you that then solves all of your problems.
Exactly.
It's what you unwrap within yourself by peeling the layers of the onion of all the things that are not love, so that you get to the delicious center, which is love.
I think love. I think love is actually a mirror. If you can look at it in a metaphor for a mirror, or a mirror is a metaphor for love. When you truly have a relationship built on love, it reflects who you are, the internal, the spiritual nature of who you are. And sometimes, I'm not saying that it's not pretty, but it does give you the opportunity to do a really good soul search. And then when you do that, you can find that, people often say you can't love somebody else unless you love yourself first. I don't know if that's necessarily true, because I think a lot of people can have a problem loving until, look at people with pets. There are some cold people out there in the world, and then they get a dog and they become all loving and caring because that dog just loves them. The pet just loves them to death, and it opens up their heart. It opens up that channel, that vibration, so they have something to match to. Some people have never felt that vibration in their life, that higher vibration of love. And then when they do meet it, they can open up to it or shut down to it. But I think they don't need to. I personally don't think they need to love themselves first. I think they can love themselves at the same time, or love themselves as well. But I don't think it's a need. I feel more happy for those people who have never experienced love and end up finding somebody that lights that little flame within them, and then they can look at themselves, and then they can start loving themselves. I think unless somebody's ever loved you, you can't find love. I can't love yourself, because how do you love yourself? I know your spirit, but how can you really love yourself if you've never learned what love is?
You are love, and your true nature is love.
Oh, definitely, your spirit, yeah.
Love is who you are, and love is where you come from, where you're born from. And God is the oneness. And the oneness created the split so the oneness could reflect itself back at itself. Because there's a different experience to be had when the oneness is split into a duality. And that's what our experience in the physical world is based on. So, we are God looking back at each other through our eyes.
So there's another question from Letitia, and Letitia, that's not exactly in context, but it's not far off context as well. And that is how to cleanse, balance the chakras, and what else is needed to make a start with a sturdy foundation. So how to raise your aura. Everyone states you need to raise your aura energy, but no one really describes how to do that. So is the aura energy, does the aura and the energy around that fit into what we're talking about tonight?
Yeah, well, raising your vibration certainly does.
Yeah, but she's using the word aura as opposed to the vibrational energy.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, the aura is another word for the energy field that surrounds you. And a chakra is an energy vortex or an energy center that is part of your energy system as spirit, and each of those chakras forms a layer of that energy field. And yes, we talk about cleansing and balancing the chakras, and we talk about raising the vibration, and we talk about clearing the auric field, and that is part of the path to enlightenment, part of the path to awakening, part of the path to becoming an awakened human. And because the more that you are in alignment, the more that you are in balance, and the more that your energy is clear, then the more you see the truth of who you are, and the more you have clarity about who you are and why you're here. If your energy field is full of foreign energy and distortion, if it's full of fear, hate, and those lower vibration energies, it's like walking through murky water. It's like treading the path, a muddy path. It's like trying to find your way through a snowstorm or through the fog. If your energy field is full of someone else's energy or the denser vibrations, then you cannot see clearly. You cannot access and feel the love that you are. You have no clarity. And so yes, we say you must cleanse the auric field, cleanse and balance the chakra system. And when you do that, that does raise the vibration, because in order to do that, you are letting go of everything that isn't you, everything that it doesn't belong in your energy space. So you're making it lighter, becoming enlightened, making it lighter, making it clearer, and then opening the windows of perception. So why is that necessary to open the psychic abilities? The chakras are windows of perception. The psychic abilities are channeled through the chakras. If the window is a dirty window, you're not going to see through it. Okay, so yes, Letitia, we do say that, and then nobody tells you how. I tell you how, and I also tell. So one of the ways that I tell you how is, and this is the answer to all of it, actually. So I'm going to give you a long answer and a short answer. And the short answer is, if you ground, if you do that technique that I mentioned in part 1, if you create a flow of energy from the first chakra near the base of the spine to the center of the earth, it does many things for you. 1, it brings your energy into your space. 2, it anchors you right here, right now, in your body, in present time reality. 3, it gives you a way of releasing everything that isn't you. So basically, you can drain away the denser energies and making space for the higher vibration energies. So it's like an energy exchange. Release what isn't you and what is dense, and bring in the light that you are. Grounding will actually do that for you. Now, in all of my psychic development courses, we go into more depth about this and other ancient spiritual techniques. So in my Unlock Your Intuition course, it is a recipe absolutely to tell you how to do that. That course is all about learning how you own your energy field, how you cleanse your energy field, how you balance your chakras so that you can be clear, so that you can raise your vibration, and so that you can use your psychic abilities. And so absolutely, the information on how to do it is available. It's available through me, and it's available through other teachers as well. But if for some reason you didn't want to take a course, if you really listen to me telling you to ground and how to ground, you can change everything just by practicing that energy technique.
Let's talk a little bit about love and ego.
Love and ego.
Yeah. The difference between love and ego.
Okay.
Without using the word vibration.
Without using the word vibration, I can do it without using the word vibration. So, well, we've already talked about love. Let's talk. Love is the highest vibration. Love is God. Love is.
You use the word vibration.
But what is the ego? The ego is the false made self. The ego is who you might believe you are, but isn't who you really are. It's like the ego is like an outfit that so you are light, you are love, you are of a multidimensional nature, and a projection of your energy, of the energy of your soul, has created this version of you. This version of you has a spark of your divine essence within it, and this version of you has, we might call it a body personality, we might call it the temporal self, the self that's embedded in time, space, reality. And the self that, in order to be here at the density of physicality, has kind of pinched itself off or distanced itself from the ultimate reality of who you are. So you've embedded yourself in a kind of illusion. And the ego self is part of the illusion. And it's part of, it partly gets created in order to help you navigate the framework of physical reality that you find yourself in, navigate the relationships you find yourself in. But it isn't who you really are.
Interesting. So would you consider habits ego?
I would see habits as little unconscious programs that are running in your system.
And then your ego basically judges those for themselves.
Yeah, if you're judging your habits, then yeah, that could be that's your inner judge, which an aspect of your ego self. That's
interesting. We had another question, and this is a little not necessarily remote, a little bit more remote than, or not connected to love in essence, or in when you first take a glance at it. But I think it has a lot more to do with it than when at first glance. So this is from a fellow named George. George says, "Is remote healing possible? What does it take to be able to help someone who has cancer that has spread?" And I think when you start looking at, I'll read all his questions to you, and maybe I'm not sure if we'll go after the break or not on this one.
Let's do it after the break, because
let me read out the questions to you a little bit first, okay? Okay, so can a person who is influenced by a religious dogma be healed if she or he believes that only people of their faith can help with the healing? I recognize that from somewhere. Is there a way to measure the healing energy so we can have a feedback and learn when and how it's working, making it easier to learn to control it? Can someone see or sense if these healing crystals have effect on people? So those are just some questions. And I find that, again, love being the highest vibration and illness being like a low vibration, in essence, if I'm not mistaken, then if you bring love into your life, you have more probability of working with healing. Am I right or not? With healing energies.
So you said if you are sick and you bring love into your life,
if you have love in your life and you're looking for healing, does the vibrational energy of illness contramand love, or vice versa? Can love defeat illness?
Love, yeah. I mean, illness, disease, dis-ease, it's a state of being out of alignment. And love, being in the vibration of love, is a state of being fully in alignment. So absolutely, that the energy of love can transform any lower vibration and can bring into alignment any misalignment. Now, I really would like to go to the break.
Yeah, let's go to a break now.
And so, listeners, you've been listening to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and Corey, and we'll be back after these messages. Welcome back, listeners, to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and with Corey. And this evening we're talking about love. And just before the break, Corey had posed some questions from one of our listeners that were to do with energy healing. And one of the questions was, if somebody is programmed by religious dogma and only believes that someone from their own faith can facilitate healing, does that mean that that's the only way that they can heal?
I think there's two questions. First of all, the first question is remote healing possible?
Yes, I do it every day. Yes, it's energy. You know, people, occasionally I get people sort of say, well, to receive a healing from you, don't I need to physically be present? Don't I need to physically come and see you? And the answer is no. If I was performing a medical intervention, then yes, you need to bring your body with you. But I'm not. I'm working with energy. And energy is accessible non-locally. Your energy is accessible I can read your energy wherever you are on the planet, and I can perform a healing and facilitate changes in your energy wherever you are on the planet. So remote healing is absolutely possible. There are many of us that are practicing healing that way.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the internet. You don't have to be in the room in order to get the signal. You know, Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but that's a good analogy.
And also, the thing that I've come to learn about healing is that it has almost nothing to do with the healer and everything to do with the person that's being healed and their connection, their open connection to spirit and the internal thing. I think that's all a healer really does, is it just they open the channels between the person and the healing itself, the energy that comes through.
The healer is like a midwife.
Yeah, exactly. So
they are catalyzing and overseeing the transformation that the healee wishes to happen. And the transformation will not happen unless the healee is fully on board. And there's a difference between consciously thinking that you want to be healed and there being a greater plan for what you're going through as well. And also there are different, let's just talk about what constitutes healing as well. Because at the beginning we were talking about human concepts of love. Let's talk about human concepts of healing. Because I see this very often, that people the idea is for someone has to get better for healing to have occurred. So let's say somebody has cancer. And we would say, if that person dies of cancer, there has been no healing. And the only way that we are shown that there is healing is that that person is cured of all cancer. And then we say they were healed. But that person who's dying of cancer can receive so much healing, can receive a lot of changes and transitions and awakenings and shifts in consciousness and growth and expansion, and still die of cancer at the end of it. You know, they can receive such love from their family, from the people who are looking after them. They can, maybe it's somebody who's given all their life non-stop and then they develop cancer, and in the process of going through that illness, they balance out the giving with a whole bunch of receiving. They learn to receive. They learn in, you know, in they allow others to give them love and to receive the love. And so, you know, I think we need to also look at our definition of healing. Healing is change. But what that change is, there can be many things that change in the process of going through an illness.
Well, that speaks to one of his questions as well. And is there a way to measure the healing energy so we can have feedback and learn when and how it's working, making it easier to learn to control it? You want me to read that again?
That's a really good question. Is there a way to measure the healing energy? And I assume he's asking, is there a way to measure the healing energy with scientific instruments? You know, and because I can say, well, those of us who are psychic, we can see that energy, we can see the energetic shifts as we're working with the energy. So we don't need proof because we know it, we see it, we observe it, it's happening. But the greater community, the greater scientific community that have not yet awakened those gifts, evolved to that capacity of being able to use their other senses, you know what? I'll answer it this way. In one sense, okay. I don't know because I'm not up to date on all of the scientific research everywhere. But what I would say is that all scientific instruments measure the energy within a certain bandwidth, right? So if you've got something that's measuring the visual spectrum, then the scientific instrument will go, you know, possibly from somewhere in the infrared to possibly somewhere in the ultraviolet. And that's therefore scientists will say, well, you know, this is the visible you know, this is the spectrum of energy that we can measure with our instruments, or whether it's some other instrument. And science is advancing all the time. And what energies we're able to measure are expanding and advancing all the time. And so, you know, how far does what science does now meet what's happening energetically? I don't know the answer, but I think more and more as science evolves, that it's likely that we, you know, will have instruments that measure that. In actual fact, we might say to some degree, well, we can measure the result of a healing, can't we? We can do a scan of a tumor, you know, 1 month apart and say it's shrunk or it hasn't. And if that person's main intervention has been energy healing, well, we could say, well, maybe it's a result of the energy healing. Probably the profession wouldn't go that far.
Well, they have equipment now that can actually read aura, right? That sees aura. I forget the name of the camera that does. But wouldn't wouldn't the aura, like if they were seeing an aura, which is the energy field around? I mean, they can read energy fields. They can. It's readable. I mean, when you look at what do you call it? Magnetic energy. You can use a piece of equipment that's sort of similar to a Geiger counter. It makes more noise and less noise as the field gets thicker. Well, the same thing if it's energy. If an aura is energy, they can do that as well. And when you're healing, when you're giving someone a healing, the density of the aura will change, will it not?
Many things may change when a healing's being administered.
Okay, so next part of his question is, can a person who is influenced by a religious, let me try again. Can a person who is influenced by a religion dogma be healed if he or she believes that only people of their faith can help with the healing?
I already answered that, or I started to, which is to say that you create your reality through your beliefs. So if you don't believe something's going to work, it's not going to work. Well, that's how the placebo effect works. People believe they're having a medicine that works.
Well, it's interesting because I was involved in a religion that did hands-on healing. And I've been privy to two situations where cancer disappeared just prior to operation. People going in when they got into their operation, the tumors that they had were gone, and and a lot of the what's the word I'm looking for? Kudos went to the people that were doing the healing. And again, they're just conduits, and the people that did them realized that they were just conduit as well. But I know that in that religion, there are two different groups of people. That one group of people feel that only the people in that specific religion have the power to heal in the name of God per se, in that sense. And the other group of people say no, that everyone, just like in the Bible when it said, look, Jesus, they're healing in your name. And like Jesus says, well, go ahead, let them heal. As long as they're not doing harm, that's great. Let them do it in my name, to paraphrase. I just find it very interesting how, again, like you said, how we have a tendency to put, and that's why I brought up ego before. We have a tendency to put the emphasis on the person doing the healing and how powerful that person is to do the healing, whereas it's not got very little to do with that. It's just how they can channel that energy to someone. Like one of my mentors was amazing. That taught me matrix energetics. That man was. He could literally funnel energy into different ways and just send it exactly where it had to go to make that disturbance in the person's energy field to help them move through that illness. Now he talks about another question is, can someone see or sense if healing crystals have any effect on people? And again, I guess that's probably the same.
So the question was if healing crystals if crystals have an effect on healing. Is that the question?
No, just can someone see or sense if healing crystals have any effect on people?
Crystals are. There are two things about crystals. One is that they can amplify energy, and the other is that they can store information. So crystals can be programmed, can be used to put energy and information in them, and they can also be used as an energy amplifier in the healing process. And can somebody see that? Well, somebody who's clairvoyant can see the impact of a crystal on an energy field. Yes.
When I was 8 years old, I built a radio. Had a kit, a little model kit, and it was a crystal radio. And they actually used the crystal as an amplifier for the signal that would come in. It was very interesting. It's a very simplistic system, but it did actually work. It wasn't super clear or anything like that, but depending on where along the band you were, right? But yeah, crystals are in. I had what's the magnetic one? Hematite. I had a really interesting experience with hematite. And that's why I like hematite bracelets. Mine's broken, I can't wear it, but I find it has an amazing calming effect on people, including myself. And it helped me through some, what I would call rough times. So I think crystals work, and I agree with you. If somebody can read energy, then they should be able to read or sense the crystals helping people. But I'm wondering, what I'm wondering here more so than answering these questions, I'm wondering where this is coming from. It sounds like he's having an experience with someone who's having some issues, and he's having problems there's a challenge to having this person receive a healing from outside of their religious circle because it can't be seen or can't be heard. What do you think? What do you get as a feeling from that, Dr. Lesley? And what kind of advice could you?
What's underneath this question?
Yeah, what's underneath all these questions from him?
well, I guess I can look at that. All right. Well, I know who asked that question. He's called Curious George. And he's just curious. He wants to understand he wants to understand all of this, because he wants to understand how everything works. So he has questions about everything so listeners,
I have a question from Lisa.
you do good, great.
Yes, I do. And she says, I'm not sure if you saw my question, and sorry, Lisa, but we had some problems here, as usual, our technical problems of freezing up and stuff. But here's her question: when doing a reading for a client, do you use your heart chakra to filter and ensure that messages are only from love? Thank you.
Yes. So when I'm doing a reading, I'm doing something with each of my chakras. But I am doing something with the heart chakra, yes, and I'm opening the heart chakra. I'm opening the heart chakra up completely so that I am in a state of unconditional acceptance and love. So amongst other things, yes, that is what I'm doing. I'm opening the heart chakra. I'm also adjusting other chakras in order to deliver the correct information in a way that person can understand the information, so that I can tune into the more spiritual realm rather than the physical realm. So there's a lot going on when I'm doing a reading, but opening the heart chakra for sure is one.
Yeah, it's interesting. She just brought something out. When I do matrix energetics, I can sit there the whole time and focus on energy and throw energy into people and do all this stuff, and it doesn't do anything. There's no effect until I go from my head into my heart. We do things like drop a stone. Literally drop a stone, and allows you to focus into your heart, and then it's a lot easier. And as soon as I do that, that focuses the energy. It sort of like turns the switch on and allows it to the different energy source to go into where it has to go. I always found that amazing. Until I dropped into my heart, nothing would be done. And that's why, and to me, that's why all of these things that we do in the way of psychic abilities can't be duplicated by the armed forces or anything to have machines do it, because there's no heart connect.
I don't think machines have a pineal gland either. I mean, I'm balancing the head and the heart when I read. I'm centering my consciousness in my pineal gland, which is one of the seats of the soul within the human body. And so that I can have my neutrality. That actually conveys acceptance more than the heart chakra. That actually conveys neutrality more than the heart chakra. If I was only in my heart chakra, then I would lose my neutrality. I have to be in both.
Well, Dr. Lesley, it's that time of the night again, unfortunately. We've come to an end of another show.
Yeah, well, so it remains to just say goodbye to our listeners, and we hope you enjoyed the show. We're here every Tuesday from 7 to 8 o'clock Pacific time, and we're now live streaming on Facebook as well. So if you would like to ask questions live, then join the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips. For more information, go to our website at drlesleyphillips.com. That's drlesleyphillips.com, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. You can also find the questions that were asked during this show at the website on our free card reading podcast page, where you'll find a full list of them. Come back again